They are the legendary stars of big game fishing, famous for their agility, speed, and power.
Billfish, particularly the sailfish, these are like the cheetahs of the sea.
Billfish is on almost any fisherman's bucket list.
To me, it's the anticipation of the bite. You're sitting there watching your teasers, your baits, and when that fish comes in the spread, that's when everything starts getting real excited and you're waiting for the bite, and you get the bite, you get them hooked up, start fighting the fish and chasing them down, watching them jump. I think that's what makes it all really cool. It's a real thrill.
Whenever you catch a fish that's a strong fighter, there is an adrenaline rush.
They're such a beautiful animal. They're very acrobatic when they fight. And it's just a good feeling to catch one, give it a pet or a kiss on the cheek, and turn it loose and watch it swim away again.
One of the hot spots for bill fishing is the eastern tropical Pacific.
It's the area of the world where you have the highest catch rates, without a doubt.
Commercial fishermen also frequent the region for its tuna and mahi-mahi.
Very large industrial longline fleets are operating in the area, where more than 300 million hooks are permanently soaking in the water. And we're concerned about the fact that billfish are bycatch in these fisheries. The fishing mortality that is being exerted on the billfish is very high these days, about twice as high as the resource can sustain.
What impact will this growing competition for a finite resource have on billfish long term? Can the commercial and sport fishing industries coexist?
Major funding for this program was provided by the Batchelor Foundation, encouraging people to preserve and protect America's underwater resources, and by Divers Direct Emotion Club, inspiring the pursuit of tropical adventures and scuba diving, and by the Do Unto Others Trust.
The Pacific coastline off Central America, ranging from Guatemala south to Panama, is a popular area for sport fishermen looking to hook billfish. What makes the region so ideal is its unique oceanographic conditions. Ocean currents lead to seasonal upwelling of deeper water that pushes up toward the surface.
And this water is high in nutrients that generate higher productivity of the ocean. However, this water is also very depleted in terms of dissolved oxygen.
There's a huge amount of plankton that's dying off. As it's dying off, it's using up all the oxygen.
And the lack of oxygen does not sustain life, really.
During this time, the billfish prey is condensed into the upper layer of the ocean.
The upper 100 meters in the water column are the ones that have sufficient oxygen for animals to live, and this creates what we call a habitat compression. The compression becomes very significant from November, December until April, May. The peak season is always January, February, and March.
This compression is further enhanced by gap winds blowing from the east.
We have 3 major gap winds, and these gap winds are forced through the mountain ranges and create wind-driven eddies. And these eddies act as retention mechanisms for small fish and food and enrich the waters and create wind-driven upwelling.
The more compressed the prey, the more density of the billfish trying to consume the prey, and therefore the easier to catch them in the recreational fisheries.
Under the leadership of Dr. Nelson Earhart, scientists from the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science are studying billfish in the region.
We felt that there was a sort of a vacuum in terms of the science for billfish research. And for that reason, we created the Billfish Research Center at the University of Miami. And CABA is the association from Central America on billfish that is providing the funding that we have.
So many Central American countries lack the scientific information needed to effect positive policy change and conservation of billfish, that CABA serves a very important role to be able to provide those governments with the scientific data that allows policymakers within the countries to really affect and produce proper laws and legislation for billfish conservation.
The scientists use an ecosystems approach to study the animals by integrating complex oceanographic data with high-tech research tools. The ultimate goal is to develop conservation initiatives that ensure billfish populations remain sustainable for years to come.
Billfish in the Eastern Pacific are data poor in nature, and because of that, our group is seeking to get information on the life history of the animal by using data of opportunity, which is limited information that we get from recreational fisheries as well as commercial fisheries, to both assess and monitor the species. We also are putting satellite tags on these animals for long periods of time to look at the behavior of the animal and the occupancy of the Eastern Pacific into a suitable habitat.
To satellite tag the animals, the research team partners with local sport fishermen and charter boats in Costa Rica and Guatemala.
I've had 3 cups of coffee.
In Costa Rica, we got different ways to catch billfish. One of the ways is trolling with lures. The boats, they troll about 8 knots. The lures has J-hooks. The other way to catch billfish is with teasers. This is lures that don't have hooks, so they are attractors. They bring the fish up. Once we get to see what kind of fish is, we drop the right bait to the fish. So if there's a marlin, we drop a big bait with the right type of circle hook, with the right type of leader. If it's a sailfish, we drop a smaller bait, ballyhook, and we use a smaller leader. We use the outrigger to separate the lines. That way we don't get tangled. And every single bait or every single teaser, it has a name. That way, when there's a fish, we know where to go and we know where the fish is in that rod. That way we can approach the rod a lot faster and get a better hookup ratio.
The predominant species is Pacific sailfish, and then there's blue marlin, striped marlin, and black marlin. And our research is focusing mainly right now on sailfish and blue marlin.
Since April 2012, the experts have used 2 different types of solar-powered satellite tags to collect data.
We've put over 60 tags on sailfish and blue marlin. What we're really trying to do is look and see exactly what the fish are doing on a daily basis, what these fish do seasonally. And we're able to look at depth at different days, depth at different times. We're able to look at the actual acceleration of the fish. We found that the sailfish, it was over 1.7 Gs acceleration, which is a lot. The horizontal acceleration of a Bugatti, one of the fastest cars, is less.
These are burst speed. This is the attack speed when an animal is trying to catch the prey, that can reach up to 70 miles an hour in about 3 seconds. That is very unique, and it requires a lot of energy to do that.
It sort of confirms previous people's hypotheses that they are one of the fastest fish in the ocean, if not the fastest fish in the ocean.
The tag data also showed that the animals were very active during the day, but they didn't move much at night.
Depth-wise, they're very shallow, both in Costa Rica and Guatemala. They're never going deep. 83% of the time, the sailfish we're spending in the upper 25 meters or around 80 feet, I suppose.
Currently, the team is deploying tags that can stay on the animals for a year, before a pre-programmed release mechanism allows the tag to surface and transmit the data it's collected via satellite. This data is providing the experts with long-term information on the fish's migration patterns and habitat use, especially when coupled with the oceanographic data available for the region.
We can have a point for every day, and we can compare that day, the level of dissolved oxygen at that point, the current data, which we're using to look at the different eddy formations and so on, and sort of pulling it all together and getting a whole broad picture of what the billfish are doing. There's obviously seasonal differences, and we're finding that a lot of the sailfish are heading where we expected, which is they're staying along the Central American coast where they're catching. And what's really important is that they're using the oceanography dramatically, and they're using those eddy features, they're using the gap wind features, and they're avoiding areas where there's no frontal boundaries, such as the Costa Rican Dome. The Costa Rican Dome is one of the best examples where you have very low area of oxygen, and there's really not a good reason for them to be there. And all of our tracks, you see, they go right around that.
When they move from one ecosystem to the next, they do it in a straight line and very fast. They can travel up to 4 miles an hour.
We've had them go very far offshore and very close inshore. We've had them right off the coast of Guatemala, a few miles off the coast, a few miles off the coast of Costa Rica, and then we've had them 1,000 miles out off the coast. When they find themselves inside of an eddy, they'll stay in that area because it's favorable to be there. And really, it's all based on the prey. The prey is what's driving the fish. They need to eat.
For 4 months a year, all the fish are moved into pockets. So it's not like there's a giant population, they're just concentrated. It's like taking everybody in the United States and for 4 months of the year, moving them into Miami and Houston and Los Angeles. And then after 4 months, they spread out again.
Knowing where they go, knowing why they're going there, all of this is information that can be used to protect them. It's all, in the effort of conservation.
One of the challenges the scientists face is that there isn't any reliable information available on how many billfish die in the commercial fisheries in the region each year.
The ability to to assess the exploitation and mortality is very difficult and has been unsuccessful using more or less traditional methods of stock assessment. Our group has been quite creative in developing methods to assess fisheries like billfish using newly developed data poor techniques.
In addition to the information provided by the satellite tags and oceanographic data, the science team also works closely with the recreational fishing community to collect more information about the animals.
Nobody knows where the fish are better than the fishermen themselves.
The scientists developed a digital logbook system that allows fishing captains to enter data on a smartphone while at sea.
The captains will enter the catch, and that system will provide the latitude, longitude, and what are the species that they have raised and caught and released. That information is transmitted to us via satellite, and then we analyze that information.
The system tracks the movement of boats and looks at their behavior relative to one another, as well as the movement of the boats relative to oceanographic features. And from there, we can estimate both availability and the rate of success that these sport fishing boats are having in catch rates.
The research team from the University of Miami is the first to use this kind of integrated information approach to determine the relative abundance and distribution of billfish. All this information is vitally important, since billfish numbers in the region have decreased drastically. Commercial fleets targeting tuna and mahi-mahi primarily use long lines as their fishing gear, which are miles of lines with baited hooks. All kinds of animals get caught and die on these lines as so-called bycatch, including billfish.
Worst of all are the international fleets that are operating in the open ocean, and those are fleets from Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and now mainland China. Those fleets are operating 300 million hooks in the region, in the offshore areas.
And in Costa Rica, heavy fishing pressure from foreign vessels, and to a lesser extent by the local fleet, has also occurred in nearshore waters.
The trophy size has declined 40% in the case of the sailfish, and the abundance of the sailfish has decreased in over 80%. In the case of the black marlin, over 90% decline in the abundance of the stock. And you can see that in Costa Rica, the catch rates have dropped significantly.
I've been fishing in Costa Rica for about 38 years, and definitely the fish populations and resources has been going down.
The research revealed that sailfish are caught at twice the rate of what is considered sustainable. This has put the recreational fishing community at odds with the commercial sector.
This country, keeping the sailfish alive, creates a lot of jobs, catch and release, marinas, sport fishing industry.
Studies that we carried out demonstrated that a dead fish was worth about $60 total, while a fish when alive caught and released in recreational fisheries, it varied in between $800 and $2,000. A $2,000 fish is the value of a fish that is being caught in the fly fishing mode, and conventional is about $800. And that is if you catch the fish only once. So probably you can catch these animals several times during their lifespan. Therefore, the total value of the resource is obviously enhanced.
This is the type of tourism development that we're interested in, which is sustainable because it's a catch and release situation.
The Costa Rican Tourism Institute provided a study that showed that $230 million was generated every year thanks to sport fishing.
The mates, the captains, and everybody working on these charter boats, they're all Costa Ricans. Every single boat's got 3 to 4 families. It's a huge economic impact to Costa Rica.
While the export of billfish is illegal in Costa Rica, the fish can be sold on the local market.
Locally, marlin and sailfish here in Costa Rica sells very well. The Costa Rican population eats a lot of ceviche, and blue marlin is the preferred fish for that dish. Right now is about $4 a pound.
Imagine that they're doing fried quetzals. Nobody will come then to see to go for bird watching because we're eating the birds. So it doesn't make sense.
I really think Costa Rica needs to prohibit the sale of billfish, particularly sailfish.
Part of the problem is that many fish populations have declined over the years, leaving Costa Rican fishermen with less fish to go after.
The commercial catches of other fish like mahi-mahi have gone down 50% in the last 10 years. This means that the commercial fishermen are catching half of what they used to catch 10 years ago. And so they go out there and they pick up whatever is being hooked. And in many cases, there's a lot of billfish, sailfish, and marlin being caught in the long lines, which are a non-selective fishing art that's still being used here.
It helps with the invoice at the end of the day, but I couldn't just fish sailfish. It's not lucrative enough just to fish billfish. So we look for the species that have a higher value of tuna and know that that's really the future of the fishermen here, and knowing that that's the way we need to go.
Until recently, Costa Rican fishermen were losing revenue to larger-scale foreign purse seiners who were putting heavy pressure on local tuna stocks.
They can come in and fish in Costa Rican waters anywhere they want to, up to 12 miles from the coast. So we thought that that's just ridiculous. All that money, all that fish was going outside. For the fishing sector, that was a huge loss. I think the average tuna seiner brings in around 1,200 tons of tuna a trip. If I can get a ton of fresh tuna in my boat, we can survive and make make good money here in Costa Rica.
Knowing this, the commercial and recreational fishing communities worked together to come up with a solution that would put less pressure on billfish stocks and at the same time provide the commercial fishermen with lucrative income opportunities.
When it comes to the ocean, we should all be united and act like brothers. They are fishermen just like us. The difference is they take tourists out to fish for fun while we catch fish to support our families. I don't see why there should be a problem between the two.
For the first time, we sat down at the same table. We threw all our cards out, and we started talking about what they want, what we want. They expressed to us if there was more tuna available, they would lose interest in billfish. The foreign fleet was taking so much tuna in the purse seine nets, and the benefit to the country was so small that we worked this arrangement out with the government. Now we have to see how all the dominoes fall. And hopefully it'll be win-win for everybody.
In October 2014, a decree was issued by the Costa Rican government that pushed the foreign purse seiners 45 miles offshore.
By moving away the purse seiners, the local commercial fishermen can have 200,000 square kilometers, which is 44% of the economic zone, to fish for tuna without having to compete with the high technology seiners. So by moving forward with this decree, we feel that the billfish population has a chance to increase and be sustained.
So for us, that's like, it was just incredible. Just to get it passed was incredible, and we were just really happy. Last 2 months has been incredible because of the pressure that my captains don't have against the big commercial boats.
The commercial fishing sector also agreed to increase the use of more selective fishing methods to decrease the amount of bycatch typically caught on long lines. While big game anglers in Costa Rica are hooking less billfish these days, the fishing is still spectacular in Guatemala.
We normally average 20 to 25 bites a day. Pretty much, around Central America, the most consistent place to go and catch sailfish.
Guatemala passed a regulation that you cannot land or export the fish. The commercial fishing industry in Guatemala, in fact, is very small. It's artisanal in nature, that is to mean very small boats that are fishing within the areas where the recreationals are fishing. That is the main issue. For that reason, the catch rates of billfish in Guatemala are still very high, the highest in the entire region.
In December 2014, Guatemala created a sailfish commission to better protect sailfish in the region by prosecuting those who illegally target the animals.
This commission is truly framing the enforcement of the regulation. No landing, no export. And in fact, they have been very successful at stopping the landing of these sailfish. The government of Guatemala used our research results to justify the presence of the commission. We were able to demonstrate to the government the value of their resource and how they were wasting it. And all of this then convinced the president of the country that something very drastic had to happen.
The advice and support provided by the University of Miami has been very important to us and helped in the creation of the commission. Protecting the resource is important because the income generated by recreational sail fishing is good for the economy.
The ultimate goal of the Central American Billfish Association and the University of Miami research team is to create a region-wide commission to conserve billfish along all of Central America's Pacific coastline.
These fish are crossing multiple different management areas. So what we're seeing is they're crossing the exclusive economic zones of 3, 4, 5, 6 countries, and they're not being managed the same way. They need to be protected over the whole range of their habitat.
what we're hoping for is an international agreement between all the countries in Central America. This is essentially the last remaining pocket of billfish reproduction in the Eastern Pacific. And we're hoping that all the countries will be able to join into one effective way of asking for billfish conservation. And conservation is important not only for the survival of these fish, but for the survival of the act of sport fishing. Unless we can do something to preserve and conserve the amount of billfish out there, we don't have a chance.
Major funding for this program was provided by the Batchelor Foundation, encouraging people to preserve and protect America's underwater resources, and by Divers Direct Emotion Club, inspiring the pursuit of tropical adventures and scuba diving, and by the Do Unto Others Trust.